Hi, hello everyone, FredRex2007 here, and welcome back to another video on my channel once again. It's been a long time doing this, I know. Today's video I'm going to be talking about is going to be the review and ranking of the Fear Street Trilogy. R.L. Stine's Fear Street, the trilogy itself, that came out on Netflix, and it became a thing since last year. Since they announced it, everyone was crazy about it. And yes, if you're asking, I was one of those people. This was something I was expecting. And how did it go after watching this whole 6-hour-long film that's a 3-parter? It was really good. To be explained, so into this example, by explaining this, was the Fear Street Trilogy better than the Goosebumps movies? Because, you know, they're both inspired and based off the books of R.L. Stine, like the Goosebumps series or the Fear Street Trilogy. The Fear Street series, sorry. Were they better than the Goosebumps movies? And the answer is a yes. This was better than the Goosebumps movies. For sure. In my opinion. In my true opinion. If you guys get a little offended that you guys think the Goosebumps movies are better, but I just think the Fear Street movies are better. Like, come on now. Come on, man. Like, come on now. Come on. The Goosebumps movies? They ain't slick. Like, come on. The Fear Street Trilogy was way better. You have to... Oh my god, you have to approve it. You have to admit it. The Fear Street Trilogy was way better. And I'm going to tell you why, but let's get the video started and just explain why the trilogy is great, why is it good, and just put out my thoughts about these movies. So, let's get on with it. The Fear Street Trilogy was directed by Lee Janak. If I got the name pronounced wrong, I am sorry. And he spent hours, like clearly the whole year of 2019, by filming this 6-hour-long movie, like all 3 of these parters, and they're originally supposed to be theatrically in theaters, like released theatrically. They're supposed to be in the movie theater, but until then, when 2020 just messed everything up, including the theaters, so that means the movies have to be delayed until later the year. They decided to give the movies to Netflix. That's why the Netflix has the movies and put them into a 3-week event back in July, since July this year. And the movies were being a little bit overhyped for everybody, because since we watched the movies, since they're finally out, like they come out every Friday, July 2nd, July, I forget, but yeah, we were suspending this 3-week event in early July from this Fear Street Trilogy event. And how did it go? It was amazing. We had a fun time. I thought it was better than Stranger Things. I thought Stranger Things is just dead right now. Like, we're just waiting. We're still waiting a long time for Stranger Things Season 4 to come out. Like, when is Season 4 going to come out? That's not until next year in 2022. But right now, Fear Street is all we got for now. Just hang on for that. In my personal opinion, Fear Street, the trilogy, is definitely better than the Stranger Things series that's happening on Netflix right now. Because Stranger Things is just dying off for the moment right now, because it's still taking a while for Season 4 to come out. But right now, the Fear Street trilogy, it is on point right now. I love it for a lot of obvious reasons, so let's just explain it by reviewing the movies. And also, there's going to be some spoilers, so if you have not watched the movies yet, like, what is wrong with you? Go watch the movies right now. But if you've seen it, if you've seen all 3 of them, hello, how's it going? We're going to be talking about the films right now. So it starts off with the first parter of Part 1, 1994. So the titles in the 3-parter trilogy is just putting out the years what it takes place in, because it just goes into a back and forth timeline with these movies, so I'm going to be explaining it to you. And so in 1994, it starts out in this town of Shadysville, which is the books is based off of, because all the Fear Street books are based off in the town that takes place in Shadyside. So it starts off in the Shadyside Mall, and it starts with the character named Heather, and she's literally that victim that has like 5 minutes of screen time, and she begins to be a good, lovable character until then, 5 minutes later, she gets killed off by the killer called Skull Mask. And let me tell you, I love the way how Fear Street Part 1, 1994 was giving some, like, throwback, like, a lot of Scream references in the movie. Like, clearly, the whole movie is literally inspired by Scream. Like, the first parter is all because of Skull Mask, because look at Skull Mask. He is very much alike Ghostface, isn't he? But even though the costume is a little inspired by one R.L. Stine book cover of Halloween Night 2, because, you know, that's the cover by having characters wearing skeleton costumes. So they let this killer wear a skeleton costume and make him very much alike, very similar to Ghostface. So why not? Just make the killers very similar to Ghostface, or it's very inspiring to other popular like slasher genre killers. So why not add it? So, yep, Heather's gone by Skull Mask, but until then, later the next day, we get to introduce the new character. Until the movie introduced us to these characters. We got the main protagonist here. We have our girl Dina. She's like the main protagonist. She's like the main focus of the trilogy. And she has her brother Josh and her friends Simon and Kate. Kate and Simon are like my favorite characters. They're like the comedic relief type of characters. And Josh is like the nerdy character. Like he's like this character with the brains. And you have Samantha, which is Dina's ex-girlfriend. Yep, they used to be a couple, but they broke up from a lot of relationship issues. And they're now fighting each other from their broke-up relationship. And they're just, got caught into that middle of that situation until the situation ends. Well, they're still in trouble with that, but until then, it happens in a car crash one time when they're, picking on the bullies, and Samantha was one of them. They end up in the car crash and Samantha ends up having this, this little vision of the witch, which clearly the whole movie is being focused on the witch, and I'll just explain that to you later. So since Samantha is now infected from this witch curse, and now they're having these killers stalking them, chasing after them, like whatever, like you know what I mean. Like clearly the killers are just coming out of nowhere, just stalking the characters. Is all because of Samantha is being affected by this curse. So it's up to them to solve this problem by, breaking this curse, break it out of their way so the characters will just go away. And that's when later on, it explains that this whole town of Shadyside has been carrying this curse for the past 300 years. So we're just going to get fast forward into the second parter, 1978. That's when Shadysville having this Camp Nightwing area where all the camp counselors are, which we have Ziggy, played by, I forgot who the name was of the actress. She's like the gold star in this whole trilogy, because we all think like Ziggy has to be one of the best characters in this whole trilogy. And we have her sister, Sydney, and we got Tommy, and that's when Tommy, he's also been affected by this curse, and he ends up snapping because he became the next killer, which is very similar to Jason. So they're going to have to fix that problem. But it gets into the third parter when we get to the past of 1666, where the curse ended. The origin of how or when the curse happened. So it's very off of how this idea just got, it's very weird how this whole trilogy is being focused on. It's just a curse, but not the Spear Street itself. The street itself has nothing to do with this trilogy. All of it's focusing on is just this curse of this witch named Sarah Fear, because her last name is Fear. Fear Street, get it? So since she was, killed by the Salem witch trial, because, we always have to have one of these horror films that's being focused on a Salem witch trial. Like, why? So since she's killed, she starts putting out this curse in Shadysville by having a killer existing in every decade. But honestly, the twist is, it is the ancestors of the Good family. The Good family. In the first parter, Sheriff Good was behind all this, including his ancestors. So he was the one who caused all this. By having this curse infecting this town of Shadysville, and having, in every decade, to have a killer. Like, we have the Milkman Killer, we have Ruby Lane, we got Billy Barker, and we got the Camp Killer once again, the Skull Mask Killer. And what the first killer was Pastor Miller, an eyeless guy. So yeah, those killers were awesome, so it would have been a lot better, in my opinion, a lot better if this whole trilogy was focusing on killers. Not just a Salem witch trial and all that curse BS. It should be focused on killers. That would have been a whole lot better. Because I'm a sucker for slashers, not cult or any Salem witch trials and all that BS. It just would have been a lot better if we get to know about all the other killers in this trilogy. like the Milkman Killer and Billy Barker and Ruby Lane. I would love to get to know about these characters. I would love to get to know these killers a whole lot more. But since the trilogy is going very well on Netflix right now, they'll probably put out spin-offs and prequels to these movies about these characters' backstories. So that would be a lot interesting. So yeah, this whole trilogy is being focused on this curse of Sarah Fear, and she's honestly wasn't the witch. It was literally Sheriff Good and his ancestors. Like they were the people that held the curse in this town this whole time. So yeah, that's how that happened. So yeah, that's literally the whole story and premise in this trilogy. Now let's get on with the ranking. So my number 3 would be Part 2, 1978. The reason why 1978 is my least favorite is because the pacing and the dialogue just drags it down. I just think that's what it's making the movie, this part of the trilogy suffers, just because of the pacing. It was so long and it was so boring. And I liked the kills, but some of the kills in the movie were a bit lazy, but they could have been a lot better. I do like the characters. Like, I love the strong friendship, I love the strong relationship with Ziggy and Sydney. Like, they're both sisters, and we can relate to them. Like, come on. And the camp killer, like, clearly Tommy, which he's very inspiring. It's a very inspiring killer to Jason Voorhees, which I thought was pretty cool. He's like one of the best parts in this trilogy. Like, come on, the camp killer, he was pretty awesome. So yeah, and the camping grounds, I am not a fan of horror films that takes place in camping grounds, like camping areas. Like, I'm not a fan of that. Come on, I'm not a huge fan of that stuff. So on to number 2, it is Part 3, 1666, because I love the way how it has that feels, but by taking place back in the olden days, back in the early 1600s, when all the Salem witch trials starts to happening, by killing the witch, because, the village is starting to be infected by the curse, by showing a lot of bad luck. And they think that Sarah Fear and her girlfriend is the one who caused the curse, so they think by killing them, one of them would help the curse go away, but it didn't. It still carries on. And then it gets to number 1, which is obviously, clearly, hands down, Part 1, 1994. I don't care what people says about this first parter. I love it. I just don't know why people hate this one. I just love it. I love the first parter. It's clearly Scream, Stranger Things, and the Fear Street books mixed into one parter of the trilogy. And I love it. This is something I've always wanted to have in a horror film. And it's awesome. Come on. Like, come on now. Come on. But I do have some pros and I do have some cons about the trilogy. I did talk about the Salem witch trial, like the curse thing, and I wish the characters Kate and Simon would survive and live on, by the story. But, they're just there for the kill count, and it was very unfortunate. I wish they weren't killed off, so rip Simon and Katie. So that's all I'm going to have to say about Part 1. So my true thoughts about the Fear Street trilogy, I definitely recommend you to check it out. If you have a Netflix account, check them out while you still can if you haven't seen them yet. I really need to rewatch this trilogy so I can just refresh my mind about these movies, because it's been a while about, watching them. So I watched them last month in July, so don't worry guys. Seen them since they were out, and they were entertaining. I thought they were better, and I thought they were way better than the Goosebumps movies. I give the Fear Street trilogy, like clearly all 3 of them, a 9 out of 10. Enough said. 9 out of 10 is good. I definitely recommend you guys to check them out while they're still available on Netflix, so give them a shot. They're amazing. Awesome. Anyways, if you enjoyed the review and ranking, I insist you to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this coming out very soon on my channel, and I will definitely plan out to do some more rankings and reviews in the near future, so stay tuned for that. So have a good one guys, and be safe. So peace out.